So what we're doing now, we're actually going to change the agenda around slightly as we have the auditors here with us today. I'm going to bring up item 7.2 before we move to 7.1. So we'll move that ahead. So I'll hand over to Janine to introduce our auditors and carry on with this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So a number of our returning councillors have probably met our audit team through particularly the former Risk and Assurance Committee. But we've got Leon Petersay, who's our Audit Director, and Jaimala Singh, who is our Audit Manager. So I think once I'll just talk very briefly to the report as included in the agenda, and then with the Chair's leave, we'll invite some comment from our audit team. So overall, this is the presentation of Council's annual report for the 24-25 financial year. The substantive content that this report is based on has been approved by the previous council through both its Finance and Services Committee in terms of the financial performance results, as well as the achievement of our non-financial performance measures, as well as through the Risk and Assurance Committee in terms of key accounting estimates and judgments. Those results remain largely unchanged from what has previously been approved, with one exception, which is in relation to the fair value of Council's infrastructure assets. So while when we reported to the Risk and Assurance Committee in September that we believed that the movements in relation to those assets fell within the materiality thresholds for the audit, further review of those numbers has indicated that the total change in values through inflationary drivers since December 2022 to June 2025 resulted in an uplift in values of about 70 million. The materiality threshold sits at about 50 million. So in agreement with our auditors, we have booked into the annual report financial statements and our balance sheet the uplift in the depreciated replacement cost of those assets of a number in the order of $20 million. Other than that, all of the results remain unchanged and as previously reported. So our process today really is to hear from the audit team who have been through the review of the document. The resolutions there see the proposal from staff that you approve and adopt the annual report and the annual report summary, pending some minor changes, which we're still just working through, a few minor matters with the audit team, and then the authorisation of the signing of the letter of representation by the Chair and Chief Executive, and a copy of that is also included in the agenda. Once that's done, the audit team will provide their audit opinion, which, as noted in the report, is unmodified or a clean opinion. So with that overview, I'll perhaps hand over to Leon just for a few words in terms of the process and outcome.
Kia ora, Janine. Tēnā koutou katoa, Mr. Chair, councillors. Yeah, thank you. Good to meet you, some of you, for the first time. Seeing that this is only your second meeting, it's my first year on this audit as well. So it was an interesting journey. I'm not going to keep you along with a speech from me. I don't do speeches, but included in your pack is my audit report that I plan to issue. As Janine said, it's an unqualified opinion, meaning that we're comfortable that the financial statements and the statement of service performance fairly present Council's operations for the year ended 30 June to 2025. Then we've got an emphasis of matter in paragraph included in the audit report. The reason for that is we referred to the greenhouse gas measure. That's, well, it's in section 2 of your annual report. That doesn't mean we disagree with it. It only says there's a lot of uncertainty around it. If there's uncertainty, the auditors usually include an emphasis of matter paragraph. So as soon as we had a chance to review the audited, it's already audited because we finished our audit, the adopted annual report and the representation letter signed by the Chief Exec and the Chair of the Council, will issue a final audit report, which will be exactly the same that's in your pack, except if there are small changes to page numbers, but that's about the only change I may expect. Chair.
Thank you, Leon. We'll move to any questions from councillors. Chris.
I'd like to move the adoption, Mr. Chair, but before then, I'd just like to ask Leon a question regarding the emphasis matter. Leon, if we were to instruct our staff to stop recording GHGs and stop reporting them, because there's obviously no need to report them, would we get an adverse audit opinion, or would you remove the emphasis matter?
Good point. I haven't seen that before, Councillor. Thank you. I've been on the receiving part of being first a few times, so I suspect there will not be any. No, there won't be any impact. We can't give you an adverse opinion. If you as a council decide to remove it, then obviously there won't be emphasis of matter because there's nothing I can emphasize.
Well, that's what I was thinking. We take the problem away. It makes the audit run much more smoothly. You don't have to do the work, and everybody's happy. So,
well, I can assure you, we don't spend a lot of time on that, sir.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't going to end up with an adverse opinion. Thank you. That's my question, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chris. I do have a seconder in Jennifer. No other questions. And just from my side, just like to point out to the new councillors, there is a piece in there on the council controlled organisations that some of you may not have been familiar that were part of the organisation. So just raising that point for some of our new councillors. So I have a mover and a seconder to receive the report, basically to adopt the annual report, pending any minor proofing, as Leon noted, and that the Chair and the Chief Executive will sign the Audit New Zealand report and the annual report summary on behalf of the Council. So I have a mover and a seconder. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried. Thank you, Leon. Thank you, Jay. Enjoy the rest of your day. Yeah, exactly. And in part of it, my signature's upside down. So I don't know.
You're not that far away from
Yeah. Right, we'll move back to item 7.1, which is page 17 of your agenda. And so this is the adoption of the committee structure, terms of reference, and the council appointments for 25 to the year 2028. Now, I do note that we have some minor adjustments in that to what is printed in your agenda. So what we'll do is, I think Dave will run through those. Is that our process? Just to pick those things up as we go. And then I would like to see if we can sort of block, nominate and approve, but I will hand over to Marley. Thank you.
Kia ora, Chair, morena councillors. I'm in your hands. Would you like me to take the report as read and go straight to anything that has popped up that is not in the agenda? Or do you want me to cover some of the key points first?
Happy to take it as read and move on to the discussions that have popped up.
Rightio. So a few things to bring to your attention. As you know, before we went into a brief break, the decision was made to see if we can identify co-chairs for the 4 co-governance committees, Waikato Tainui, Te Arawa River Iwi, Raukawa and Tuwharetoa Māori Trust Board, so that we can make those appointments now. That conversation has been had, and we understand that agreement has been reached with those appointments, which Dave has popped up on the screen. Just to run through them very quickly.
Sorry, Nutty.
Yep.
I wasn't part of that. Yeah, sorry. I mean, got great respect for Tipper, but it's just, you know, I would like to be.
Can you pull that mic a bit closer, Mike? Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
It's
I've
quite
got
quiet.
great
Speak
respect
louder.
for Tipper, but Tūwhare is definitely my area, and that's one that I would, out of the, because I'm on 3, I don't mind sharing Tart with somebody else if they want to chair that, but Tūwhare, I'd like to chair that.
I suppose.
May I check for understanding then that Councillor Downard would like to take on the co-chair position for Tūwhare Toa Māori Trust Board, and Tipa is put forward as the co-chair for Te Aroha River Iwi Trust. Is that what you're suggesting, Mike?
Yeah,
That
if
could
it's
work well.
if she's happy with that, yeah.
We haven't asked her as such.
Yeah.
But
So, okay.
that's probably okay.
I did flick Councillor Mahuta a text message to let her know that her colleagues were wanting to nominate and appoint her to a co-chair position. We will follow up with her after the meeting, and if for any reason Councillor Mahuta declines, we can come and revisit that appointment at that stage. But I suggest we put her in place now so that we can complete the appointments process and revisit if needed.
Thank you, Marley. Yep.
Just a question, were there any deputies required for Rokawa, Tarat or Tūwhare? Just because we had one for Waikato Tainui, Raupatu.
Yep, good question. In the terms of reference for those 3, it is silent, so that means it's optional. Whereas in the Waikato Tainui terms of reference, there is clearly a co-chair position identified. So there's no need to, to appoint any co-chairs for the other 3.
And just
Thank
for
you.
accuracy, because Kata raised it before, should we put the word Raupatu after Waikato Tainui?
Oh,
Thank
I
you.
asked Marley. Chair, just to be, you're going all over the place,
Yeah,
and
sorry.
I'm trying to work what page you're working on, what page you're not working on. And so it'd be great if we just started from the first committee up. Tippa's here, she's accepts something.
Kapai.
Whatever you said, Mika,
Okay.
she's accepted.
So we're just running through where we've got with the JMAs that's up on the screen currently.
Okay, so the JMA Waikato, no, Tūwhare Toa. I can't find it in this page.
Tūwhare Toa Māori Trust
Yep,
Board.
I'm happy with the first one. Roka was fine.
She's agreed in the chat.
Carrots, Tippa, yeah, should be good with that.
Everybody's clear on this one? Thank
Yes.
you. And so moving to the next matter that needs to be raised, and related to co-governance.
Optics of it, but it's not a committee, it's a working party, so it's,
And that's it, that's what it states.
so working party,
Is that on top
But this
of?
is just to note down the intention that council is looking to stand up a working party once that court
Okay.
decision comes out.
okay, it's the optics, I think it's right.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know, need to leave it there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving to the next matter and related to co-governance, there was discussion in the break on the membership for Waiora Co-Governance Committee as well. And councillors have come back with the suggestion that Councillor Liz Stoic replaces Councillor Angela Strange as a member on the Waiora Co-Governance Committee, and that instead Councillor Angela Strange becomes the second alternate to Councillor Warren, to our chair, in that order. Also, a new suggestion up there is that Councillor Cookson becomes the deputy co-chair for the Waiora Committee.
Thank you, Mark.
If I can just speak to that, when I saw what was being recommended, we had 3 from the Waikato Tainui area and none from Te Nehi Nui, and thought the optics of that wasn't that great. And I thought believe that we should have someone, and that's why that recommendation's there. Excuse me.
Thank you, Noel. And if I can just check with the members that are listed there, that they all are.
You know, we're so grateful for you folks, and we can't wait for you.
Tipper. Yeah, I'll come to Angela and then I'll come to you, Tipper, online, Angela.
Yes, that makes sense to me. I'm happy to give councillor Liz my place.
Thank you. Tipper?
I just note that Whakatatanui led the iwi-based action in freshwater and still does by not having a member that can speak to their issues directly. They'll probably have to ask for those members to be brought in. Sorry, the regional council members. So it may just require quorum shifts because I want to speak directly with the members in the area. I just note that I don't recognise it in the membership. Again, not speaking against any of the people there, but none of you know the issues of the lower Waikato. Kia ora.
Except Noel is the co-chair.
Oh, sorry, I'm just looking at the members.
Thank you. I think
Okay.
that's resolved, yes?
That's resolved. There are a couple more matters that aren't up on the screen that I'll go through really quickly. And they're just things that we've picked up when we've gone into the detail of the terms of reference and the appointments. You'll appreciate it's a really big document, and so alignment between the two documents is often really tricky to achieve. Starting with the transport space, for the Public Transport Subcommittee, currently the disability representative is appointed by council. However, the recommendation here is that that be changed to the Regional Transport Committee. This would be more consistent with a delegation that is already currently in place for the Regional Transport Committee to make that appointment. In addition, it's also recommended that the appointment of the deputy chair to this committee is made by council rather than the Regional Transport Committee. This allows council to retain, I guess, the authority over who is put into that position, and also it guarantees that council can make sure there is alignment with other committees like Future Proof and other transport related committees. Also, still in the transport space, we need to make a correction to the appointment of the deputy chair of the Regional Transport Committee. This should be Councillor Angela Strange.
6A.
That's up there, cool. And then,
Yeah.
and so if everyone's clear on the transport stuff, I'll just move on to
Did you
one
speak
other
to that,
matter.
Angela? Yeah.
Yeah, just looking at the internal WRC committee. Is that anywhere on here with the amendments or?
So I'm
Like-
not sure if Marley is aware of that potentially of some of the conversation that went round, but when I originally sought numbers for our WRC Transport Committee, I asked if it was wanting to be a committee of the whole. Now, I did note at the time that there were 4 members that, one apology, but there were 3 other members that indicated they didn't want to be part of that committee. There's been some discussion around the table about that being a committee of the whole, and the thinking behind that is that everybody then is across transport. I do think it's a reasonably good idea, being the fact that even with our strategy session, a number of councillors wanted to have a say around transport. So I would recommend that is the way we go. And just interested to hear from anyone that thinks that we shouldn't do that rather than that we should potentially. Yeah. Okay. So I think we will, we'll move that to a committee of the whole when we.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you, and thanks, Dave, for inserting that into the proposed resolution up on the screen. Just lastly, and moving to the Regional Growth and Resilience Committee, in terms of the list of things that I wanted to raise with you today, it is now proposed that we insert a clause that allows this committee to make recommendations to strategy and policy on any emerging economic or resilience issues. Now, I believe this has already been discussed by relevant councillors, and so this is just the opportunity to confirm that within our governance structure.
Yeah, and again, thank you. It was there originally, and I think it disappeared somewhere along the line in our process and talks. But again, it means that it is reporting back up into a committee of the whole, being Stratton Poll, which makes that follow up a lot easier for the total oversight of the council. Thank you. That's
That's the conclusion of the amendments that I had listed. Now over to you, Chair.
so. I think Angela.
Oh, just going back to, is it 5A, that council decides the deputy chair of that PT subcommittee?
Yep.
Yep. So we need to decide on that. Is that coming later or have I?
Yes,
It would be appropriate to make that appointment now.
I'd suggest for that to be the same as the Regional Transport Committee for continuity. So that the morning session on the Regional Transport Committee and the afternoon session on the Public Transport Subcommittee of it are flowing evenly.
So that would mean, that would mean Liz as
Liz is RTC chair and
chair. So
chair.
it would mean effectively Jennifer as the deputy chair of RTC.
No, so I'm proposing with that resolution that's being written that Liz is the RTC chair and the Public Transport Subcommittee chair, and Angela is the deputy of both. So one is in the morning, one is in the afternoon, and for all the members, continuity throughout the day.
So that was potentially a slip on my place where I put Jennifer in that space. So that's a tidy up of that. Yeah. Noel, did you want to comment?
The Waikato subcommittee, I think Robbie and I have talked to you about that.
Yes.
Are you happy with that suggested change?
Yeah. That's
It's on page 96, the Waikato Scheme Committee. The deputy chair. The protocols that was established last term was that the chair and deputy chair would chair the subcommittees. I did the Lower Waikato and Robbie was.
Yeah.
And you'd alternate.
And then he's the chair of Karakia and I'm the deputy over there.
Yeah.
I just asked for the rationale as to why, and we'll come back to the conclusion that that should continue in the interim anyway. Sorry, Gary. You're still on the committee.
So chair, yeah. So I understand. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we just, may I just check for clarity? We are appointing Councillor Cookson as the deputy chair for the Waikato Scheme Subcommittee.
That's right.
Can-
And he takes that position through the terms of reference with the chair and deputy chair of ICM.
Yeah.
Thank you. So it's captured up on the screen.
It's what it's mirroring what we did last time.
Yeah.
So if you refer to page 96 of the agenda, looking at the Waikato Scheme Subcommittee terms of reference and appointments, the correct appointment for deputy chair should be Councillor Cookson. And so we're just amending that in the resolution.
The chair of ICM.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the rationale is that in previous terms, the approach taken has been that the chair and deputy chair hold these positions for the scheme subcommittees.
Yeah. So I think that picks up all the changes and discussion that we've had around the table. So.
Or Carrot. Keith and I have decided that he will become I'll be the alternate. And he will be the member. That's
I
okay.
think Katarana decided that for me.
Yeah, that's why I need you over here. Because he's, the scenario at the moment is we're trying to upskill our new people. And I think because he is part and parcel of Karakia Whakamutunga, this particular JMA will be quite good for him to have some teeth into something for JMA.
Yeah, as the alternate. Okay, thank you. Righto. So, hey, look, thank you very much, councillors, and really appreciate the input and everything, everyone being able to actually have a discussion and get to where we've got to. So, yeah, pretty stoked with that as the place we've ended up. So everybody's happy with what they saw on the screen, I take it, because well, we'll get Dave to read it out and quickly run through it. He's been typing furiously.
It's all good because I don't have to do any counting. So the resolution before us is that we shall receive the report that contained the terms of reference and appointments as they appeared in the agenda. We're noting that the mandatory committees, as required by law or agreement, remain in place. Step 3, we adopt the structure for the discretionary committees as set out in attachment 1 of the report with the diagram. Then we adopt the terms of reference, noting the changes that we've set out in 5 below, that being that for the RTC Public Transport Subcommittee, the disability representative shall be appointed by the Regional Transport Committee, bringing that in line with the Regional Transport Committee, and that the Deputy Chair of the RTC Public Transport Committee shall be appointed by Council. Regional Growth and Resilience, we have inserted one more power, section 3F, being making recommendations to the Strategy and Policy Committee in respect of emerging economic or resilience issues on matters relating to the committee's responsibilities. And we have made the WRC Transport Committee a committee of the whole containing all 14 members of this council. We have then moved on to the appointments. And we have said that the Deputy Chair of the Regional Transport Committee shall be Councillor Strange. The Deputy Chair of the RTC Public Transport Subcommittee shall also be Angela Strange. The Waiora Co-Governance Committee, Councillor Stolwick is replacing Councillor Strange as a member, and Councillor Strange becomes the second alternate in cascading order below Councillor Ma. And Councillor Cookson shall be the Deputy Co-Chair of that committee. The Deputy Chair of the Waikato Scheme Subcommittee shall be Councillor Cookson, which brings that in line with the other subcommittee and the practice we've had to date. And for Tarrant, Councillor Holmes shall become the member and Councillor Hodge shall be the alternate. And then lastly, second to last, we have gone through and appointed co-chairs for our co-governance committees, being Waikato Tainui, Councillor Smith and Councillor Nicol as Chair and Deputy respectively. For Rokawa, Councillor Cookson, Tarrant, Councillor Mahuta and Tufatoa, Councillor Downard. And very lastly, we have a note that on receipt of the Environment Court's decision on Plan Change 1, Council will establish a working party of councillors to understand the implications of that decision.
Thank you very much, Robbie. Councillor Cookson, happy to move, happy to second. Councillor Hughes, all those in favour? Opposed? So carried. Once again, thank you very much, councillors, for all your input in this process, and thank you, Marley, for bearing with us, getting everything sorted. Yes.
Can I ask that we get a matrix or some sort with the committees, the members, like you have in here?
Yeah.
But it would be great for
No,
all of us.
we'll get that out to all councillors so you are 100% across everything. And just with the remuneration piece, Marley didn't touch on it, but that is something that we will pick up for the December meeting. So there'll be a paper come out prior, so we can have a look at some options, alternates in that space, and then that will be ratified in the December meeting. Right, our next item is item 7.3, which is our Regional Economic Development Strategy progress. That's on page 322 of your agenda. And we have Karen, Blair and Tarek joining us for this item. I'll hand over to you, Karen, and perhaps some introductions just so councillors are all across our Regional Economic Development #1 lead man.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, councillors. I'll just start with a few introductory remarks, particularly for our new councillors who haven't actually been on this interesting journey as we have worked to understand how does this council support regional economic development following the decision by our Economic Development Agency, Te Waka, to close. I'd like to introduce our new Regional Economic Development Lead, Tarek Ashraf. He has met the former council previously, but you certainly can have time with him, new councillors, because he has a lot to share with us outside of this, but he'll be talking to this. And of course, you know Blair Keenan, our Principal Economic Lead, Principal Economist. Just very briefly, thank you for establishing the new Regional Growth and Resilience Committee. It gives us governance oversight of a really important part of our work and gives prominence for the public to understand the role of the council and how we're contributing, and enables our stakeholders, business, iwi, and others to see how they can actually engage with this council and help shape the direction. Our direction is an approach called locally led and regionally connected. And this recognizes that regional economic development is actually economic development at place, but understood at scale, and to identify those opportunities at scale and to support and work with others, because there is a lot happening in our region and it is a really effective community of regional economic development. Individuals and entities, but there are still opportunities by bringing them together and identifying the opportunities at scale. And on that point, I shall hand over to Tarek and Blair.
Right hand.
So thank you, Karen, for that introduction. I was smiling because I was thinking to myself, I've been here for 3 or 4 months already. I'm not new anymore. But no, first introduction to some of you, so pleased to meet those of you who I haven't before. And thank you, councillors, for your commitment to this important work and your interest in wanting to hear about it, wanting to get the progress that's happening. And we have been making good progress, as the report mentions. I propose that the report be taken as read. It's quite comprehensive, but there are just a couple of little points that we wanted to touch on in tandem, Blair and I, before getting into getting your input, particularly on the potential anchor institutions that could partner with the council on this important work. So just one sort of slight technical point. Obviously, we, as the report mentions, we're working towards long-term economic outcomes. It can be tempting to suggest that we wish to grow GDP itself as an outcome. I'm suggesting that we don't do that. The reason is GDP is simply a measure of all economic activity, and economic activity includes public expenditure. So, for example, we could grow GDP by increasing taxes and increasing public expenditure, which wouldn't be a desirable thing. We're more interested in the actual prosperity of people. And so the sorts of measures would be related to that. And there are some examples mentioned in that report. Of course, we'll come back to you in due course with more detail on that sort of information. And there's just one other point that Blair will just touch on as well, and then we'll get into your input.
It was really just to say that we've heard the messages that have come from you all already about the need to support your decision making with better information. So we're looking at how we resource that and beef things up in the appropriate ways. There's plenty of capability that we have. So we need to make sure that the capacity is directed in the right direction to do that. And I think, amongst other things, what we want to make sure is that we're actually adding value with any economic development activities that the council is involved in. So it's not stuff that would happen in the absence of us anyway. So, and that sort of speaks to addressing kind of market failures that are described in the annex to the report, things like coordination failures amongst different people, information failures, and how to encourage positive spillovers and those sorts of things. So that's really all I had.
Would welcome any questions you may have, and then, as I say, input into potential anchor institutions.
Thanks, Tariq. Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. Tariq, I'm interested in your comment that you don't want to have GDP as a measure of the economic performance of the Waikato. Can you explain that? You've said you want some touchy-feely measure. I don't know how you measure that. Can you explain that?
Sure, I didn't say that. But,
what you said sounded very touchy-feely, and I'm not into touchy-feely stuff.
Yeah, I didn't say that. But okay, so just to go into that in a little bit more detail. So GDP, as I said, is a measure of all economic activity. So government expenditure, council expenditure contributes to GDP. So if we were to increase that, for example, that would lead to an increase in GDP. What we're interested in is, let's say, I said prosperity, we might say people's wealth. So how is that measured? And at national level, what government does and what is done quite commonly around the country and around the world is a measure such as median household incomes. So how much money do people actually get? And also taking GDP as a whole, but looking at it on a per capita basis. So how much of that is distributed amongst the people who live in a given community? So yes, it includes GDP, but it's not GDP as total on its own.
Well, if I can respond to that, please, Mr. Chair. I want to see a measure which everybody understands, something which is recognisable in Wellington. It drives a whole lot of measures throughout New Zealand, the GDP. And it's one item, I believe, we know at the moment we're lagging behind about 1%. My goal over the next 3 years is to put the region on a pathway to achieving at least equilibrium with the rest of New Zealand, if not better. And to me, that's the clearest way we can. We're not going to compete with Auckland and Wellington in terms of wealth per capita because they're in a different environment. But GDP-wise, if we have GDP growth in this region, everybody benefits, right? It might move the wealth factor for some people. It may not. It certainly will for a limited number who are driving that. But I still think we need to have a measure which is recognised by everybody, which sets a standard that we want to aspire to.
Absolutely agree, and we'll come back to you with that in due course.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. I've got a starter for 10 for anchor organisations. It's completely left field, but DOC. And the reason I use DOC is that we've heard from Minister Potaka that he's keen to see tourist dollars and that sort of thing being paid to actually, benefit from our environment in that space. And we've obviously got the visitor levy too, which I know has been tied up for this first year, but it'd be something I would like to see that potentially could come into our region and actually work in our favour in that space. So that's one from me. Ben.
Yeah, two from me. One would be settlement centre in relation to migrant communities, because they obviously have networks there, and also don't ignore the Pacifica groupings, particularly with Rachel on Hamilton City. And my question was in relation to the TAs, because I know Chris is looking at us improving the GDP. In actual fact, that actually work happens at the TA level much more than us. We might map it, but we may not be the ones who can actually drive it. What feedback have you had so far from the TAs, their economic development managers, and what are you hearing?
We meet regularly. I was grateful that once I joined, there had been a forum established approximately 18 months ago. So we're meeting monthly, talking in between times as well. They were asking for an update on this work just yesterday when we met. So they're on standby, wanting to know what the process is, wanting a detailed discussion at their next meeting, so they can look at how they can get involved. So absolutely looking to take a complementary approach to recognising what is most effectively done at regional scale and by regional council, and what's most effectively done by others, e.g. those councils as well.
And when do you anticipate the strategy will be completed?
By the middle of next year. So a few months.
Yep. Yep. And how will you sell this to central government? Or how will you ask us to sell it to central government? And who else in regions is doing economic development strategies?
So the report refers to two examples from similarly or even larger regions. It is quite a common tool. The focus of government attention recently has been more on investment. What we've found actually is that whether it's the regional and city deals or other tools that the government might be using, is that you actually need a strategy in order to be able to identify what it is that you're seeking from government. So we would certainly be doing something that is done commonly around the country in terms of taking a strategic approach. And we would certainly be wanting to partner with the government. So when it's at a political level, we would be looking to do that through you as councillors. But in terms of officials, absolutely engaging regularly. And again, they're looking for an update from us pretty soon in terms of the officials who are working in the region.
And so presumably this will also help with future regional and city deals. That's because we're a second cab off the rank, aren't we? Yeah.
Yes, amongst other things. Yeah.
Comment on regional city deals.
Yeah, if I could just comment on the regional city deals and things that Tadek's just talked about. So this is a matter that the Waikato Mayoral Forum, the total leadership of the Waikato region will have a strong interest in. The regional and city deals, you just referred to being, we're second cab off the rank. That's kind of a bit of a fluid movement at the moment. The latest information we have is the current government is focused on trying to get the first cab up the ranks through, and that will probably take most of their term. So we're not too sure exactly what second cab off the rank means at this stage, other than the region itself needs to get prepared. And so, Karen, the triennial agreement, I know that's in draft form, they're going to the Mayoral Forum. It does refer to regional and city deals in there, doesn't it?
Thanks, Chris. Gary Raymer.
Thank you for that. And thank you for the comments around GDP. So I sort of get where you're going with that, but I look at point 13 in your paper, around productivity, and I think this is a real key point, where we should look at it. And then when I look at point 14 within that next line down, you talk about some of the issues such as climate change, technology, demography, and geopolitical tensions. I suppose my question to you around all that is, do all of those things impact our productivity, and how are we going to best progress or enhance productivity for our region? You know, what is our control there around that?
No, thank you. So both of those paragraphs have been drawn from MB and MFAT's long-term insights briefing. So we've known for a long time that productivity is the biggest issue facing the country as a whole. In terms of what could be done about that and where could the focus be within the region, I don't want to crystal ball too much, and I don't want myself as an individual or even the regional council as one of the many parties involved in regional economic development to go too far down a path. But essentially what we're talking about with productivity, and I'll defer to my learned colleague to correct me if I'm wrong, is essentially how do we get more economic activity per hour worked in terms of how much return do we get from the effort that we put in. There are some general ways that can be done at a national scale. We're just one part of the national economy. We're not an island in that sense. We've got important activities that we input into New Zealand's economy as a whole. So it could be, for example, with our important primary industries, how do we take the lead from those industries themselves about how we can, for example, look at the application of technology, how we can look at reducing the cost of inputs in ways that, as Councillor Hughes mentioned, talk about things in a way that they understand. How do we look at things that improve profitability? How do we look at things that improve efficiency? And then what's the role of the council and others in potentially contributing to that?
Yeah, you know.
Jen.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Tariq and Blair and Karen. Thanks for your nuances that you're bringing to the conversation. Around the anchor institutions, just really keen for that to represent the demographics of the region really well. And then when we are measuring that, we do put a spotlight on where the benefits fall. So for example, locally or where in that demographic spread. I'm just really mindful that our economy is, I've forgotten the exact quote, but just as an example, the Children's Commissioner made one a few years ago about how many benefits accrue to, say, over 65s rather than for children based on the system that we have set up currently. And it was a multiple factor. And I'm just really worried personally around us eroding our social capital if we don't do that investment in the youth that will be our future. Yeah, and in regards to the strategy, just really keen to see some kind of mention of what limits we work within so that there's a good, clear scope. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Mikhail.
Yeah, mine's just with the iwi and how much partnership we're doing with them. You know, we looked at their economy the other day, you know, 165 billion by 2040. And they're investing a lot into tourism operations, and energy is another big one that they are. So I hope we're partnering in with them, gathering as much information and putting that forward.
Certainly. Would you, in response to the input that we're seeking, recommend that we partner with them as potential anchor institutions as well?
Yeah, I'd like to see it because they are a big footprint, especially in our area. But also, just getting back to Chris, I'm a real outcomes kind of person. I wouldn't mind seeing something, you know, like every year of exactly where we're at and where we've come from, you know, from the beginning. You know, we went through nothing against Te Waka or anything like that, but I want to see outcomes, you know, every year. And then, you know, I can say at the end of the 3 years, this is what's happening. Because there are some good things that are happening in our region, and there's also some bad things that are happening. You know, forestry is declining, you know, mills closing down and stuff like that affects. So
Thanks,
Yeah,
Mikhail,
definitely.
and just for a real bugbear with me, that relative to the previous Economic Development Agency was a lot of shiny brochures, but not a lot of deliverables. So just take that note on board. Angela.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Karen, for your opening statements. I really like the locally led, regionally connected. I think that's really important. Just to pick up on Gary's points around productivity. Yeah, just and the real importance of, efficient transport corridors as well, linking people to jobs, education and healthcare as well. I note on the terms of reference for Regional Transport Committee, there's an advisory role for economic, so looking forward to your thoughts around that as well in the future. But yeah, just that productivity piece. We all know that being stuck in traffic, no one's doing anything if you're the sole occupant of your car and you're the one driving. So yeah, just really getting those economic benefits of, say, public transport links and what that can enable within productivity, use your travel time, etc. Cool, thank you.
Thanks, Angela. Keith.
Yep. So probably to the three of you, Tarek and Blair and Karen, I have to say I'm really excited about what you guys are putting yourself into. And at this stage, just an early question. You asked the question in your presentation and here, what significant bodies that we can suggest that you connect to, but I'm going to ask you the question back. Who have you in mind at this stage? Because I've got 1,000 ideas up there, but I just want to get a feel of where you're going at this stage.
The report mentions a few types of entity. So we've covered one in terms of iwi. We could be looking at, for example, large industries or long-standing industries in the region, or even firms. So it's not to so businesses. It's not to say that an anchor institution necessarily has to be a whole sector. We can think of some examples that are pretty well associated with the regional identity, and that we can see that they're a large employer, that they are a business, and they're connected here. It could be that we look at at some of the larger or longer standing or regional education institutions. So some that have Waikato in the name, for example, and not found anywhere else. It could be, as Chairman Mayer said, a government agency that has a large presence here. So I'm hesitating to give you specific examples, but can do if you wish.
Well, if you want to hesitate, can I ask Blair?
I'd probably just back him up. I mean, if I started to think about it, because that's the space that I work in, I'd be starting to think about different sectors, and you've probably got a couple of different types in my mind. So you've got ones that are well established, and that we can look to remain a foundation, but are probably not, you're massively expanding industries. You can get sort of marginal improvements through improving productivity and those sorts of things. And I guess, in my head, I'm specifically thinking about agriculture sectors and those sorts of things in that context. And then you've got other things that are less well established, or there's a lot of potential for. And I hesitate to jump into the ICT sort of space, but there may be potential in some of those areas as well.
I was going to say, I mean, in the last meeting of the last term, we had a discussion about economic development and the process for the strategy. And one of the things that we mentioned at the time is that councillors do have a an important role and do have really strong networks in the region, including a business. And so that's why we really wanted to bring that question to you for your input, rather than us provide too much of a lead straight away. But yeah, the sort of things Blair has said certainly are relevant as well.
Thanks, Tariq. And Keith, obviously this reports back into your committee. This is a major driver and piece in your committee. So I suggest you put Tariq's number on speed dial and his email, and I'm sure he's looking forward to every little piece of input they can get. Yeah, excellent. Angela.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just looking at your list of potential people. Yeah, possibly fits into H, maybe O as well. But that's the energy trust organisations as well. So it's not quite energy infrastructure, but it's more that philanthropic, if you can say that, side of those energy providers, the likes of Well Trust within sort of the Hamilton, Waikato area, but there's also, Karen will be in the know about all the others throughout the whole region as well. So yeah, really important to keep those major funders.
Yeah, so two things then, just if you could clarify, please. One is the philanthropic side. So would you include other regional scale philanthropic organisations in addition to the energy trusts? In that?
I think so. The likes of Momentum would be huge. Yeah, that's, a really growing Trust Waikato, as you say. Yeah. But I think, those ones are really important to include in the conversations because they're long-standing.
What about the generators themselves?
Oh, yeah, I would assume that that's covered under H, but yeah.
Robbie.
Yeah, mine would be around statistically understanding where our growth is. Is our growth sustainable in the Waikato? Do we need that to come from those resources to come from outside the Waikato or not? Which mainly means people, I'd imagine that's what that comes down to. So if we're going to have sustainable growth, and they've got to be jobs that people will change from when they're living somewhere else to come to our region to get to. So I know we talked about that in the previous, 6-9 months ago, but if we're not doing that groundwork, what are you going to achieve? Because you're not going to have the people or the resources here to do it.
Yeah, and it's great that you've touched on resources as well, because people are obviously, people are important in themselves.
Yeah.
But in terms
I don't mean to think of people as resources in that way, but it is, what I mean. But
yeah, but the attraction and retention of staff is what you mean.
Yeah.
But in terms of resources, an important resource that businesses need to grow, as we all know, is capital. And so where does the capital come from outside the region as well, would be one type of resource that you mentioned.
So it's understanding all that and then understanding what our resources we have here that we can add value to make high paying jobs. So it's a big space. And what do you pick down as the priorities and the ones that you can tick off quickly, so then you can put those resources to something else.
Councillor Hughes.
Tariq, have you touched base with the Chamber of Commerce yet? Somebody needs to meet it. Okay.
Yes.
Good. Thanks.
Would you wish to identify them as a potential anchor institution?
Well, I understood they were working in this space. Kieran, did you mention that to me?
Yes.
So we know what they're doing and we're not acting in competition. We're acting in a complementary role with them.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
As a group, instead of, so they put you have a delegated member from each of them and they come and talk to you, or you go as a group organisation, not just as individuals. It'd be a waste of time.
Ben.
Oh yeah, I just picking up on Robbie's point. I assume that one of the things you'll be doing is mapping the current model of where we get our economic outputs from. Dairy is X, ICT is Y, those sorts of things, so that we've got a map.
So you mean geographically?
Well, no, it's just in the amount of
absolutely.
amount of
yes.
income we get from each sector,
Absolutely.
and so we can see what. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just note that ICT cluster was formed but now fell apart. But I presume you'll be talking to David Hallett at some stage, and Gallagher's and University on the ICT, because they did have a very strong cluster for a while. Yeah.
Would some of those that you've mentioned, Gallagher's, the university, in addition to the cluster sort of conversation, which the answer is absolutely, would you care to identify those as anchor institutions, maybe?
Suggest that you mentioned earlier on point 1A, business and industry associations. Well, there was an ICT cluster. You could almost get them to reform in order to give you input rather than, yeah. So yeah. The main thing we found with Te Waka is we never knew what the hell they were doing. They never came to report, and if they did, it was always fluffy. It didn't have much output. So yeah.
Jen.
Thank you. Just some further thoughts on the anchor institutions. I haven't got a huge lot of specifics, but just on a big picture level, would expect them to be, as you've identified largely already, those ones that add to our resilience and that we are dependent upon. So it's the water, the energy, the food, etc. Just in line with the committee name. And the pipes, it'd be nice to be able to understand out of that list the more regenerative entities, for lack of a better term right now, but the ones where they've really worked out the win-win with the environment and economic social benefit, because I see those in my mind as being very resilient into the future, keeping their social license as other things start coming down the pipeline. And also under the, when I was learning more about community wealth building last year, they talked a lot about pre-distribution. So I'd be interested in the types of organizations that are like cooperatives, for example, where a lot of the benefit accrues through the activity of that organization. Say if it's owned by the workers, that comes to them directly as opposed to needing to go somewhere else, and the profit then comes through the more common channels, I suppose. So that would be really helpful as we go down the track to be able to see that and the makeup of those in our region and the way we might be tracking with that. And just a very last comment, because I imagine we're all big fans of keeping dollars in our own region, and there was quite a bit of discussion before the election by an organisation in Hamilton that talked about who, through our procurement, got contracts, and so I'm just giving a heads up that that might come up through one of the other committees even, but we're through our procurement, or we're through some of those anchor institutions procurement, the money flows and which ones contribute most to our local economy, and it stays there kind of thing. So those are just interest points. I thought it might be helpful to mention them because it might come up in the committee later.
No.
I have a problem with this resolution, and it's not the first time I've had problems with the resolution. So let me just go to 3B. So it's that council notes staff will report to the committee. B, parties with proposed effective short-term initiatives for inclusion in the strategy. That's fine. And any potential requests for funding from the Regional Development Fund. So tell the committee about requests, but who's authorised to give the money away? And I thought that we'd cut that off. So can I have clarity around what's going on here? We stopped money being given away, and it was to be used basically to resurrect a regional development agency or similar. So telling me that someone would like some money means nothing to me. And does this committee have the responsibility for saying, hey, that's nice, and we'll give you some, or does that have to come to council? I don't understand. Solution to me.
We can certainly clarify that. It is identified in the report, but an earlier resolution of council was that initiatives to advance regional economic development would be considered by council on a case-by-case basis to advance regional economic development.
That's
So,
not what that says.
well,
Karen.
that's
It
why I'm
says-
saying we can increase
yeah.
the specificity of what that's saying.
They have the ability to recommend.
To recommend.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
can we tidy that up, please? I'm just being pedantic, but say what you
No,
actually
it's a-
mean.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
Thank you.
The change means.
Or whatever, but it just untidy. Sorry.
So Dave was just muting a microphone issue we just had, but so around that 3B, some suggested wording for clarity.
Four rather than 3C.
Yeah, well, 4 makes more sense because 3 is about the committee.
Yeah. Thank you. Robbie, you want a pillow?
Nah, I'm just waiting for you guys to get finished. Yeah.
I don't know what's changed.
Robbie.
Mine would be organisation that most probably is
Sorry, are you talking to the motion or are you talking
no,
to Rick about
no,
organisation?
I'm talking back. My question was back at the other.
Okay, no, please, yep.
Yeah.
Yep, sorry. I just-
One organisation that most probably we should put in there is hort and vegetable growers as a group together, as a like their potential of actually adding jobs into the Waikato. Like I know Bull Brothers wanted to do Mr. Chips in the Waikato, but had no source of energy. So I know the government is changing its strategy on energy. So Matamata becomes a real hub in the future of food processing. So, and I know one thing on the election cycle is Matamata wants to be Cambridge. They have their, am I wrong, Keith? Their aspirations, 25 years ago, the towns were the same size. And now Cambridge is that, and they have the aspirations that they actually want to be bigger than Cambridge in the future because they're next to Tauranga. So there's, and like organisations like Bull Brothers and Hort and others, that becomes really important because it's an inland port to Tauranga. So there's a lot of growth going to happen there in the next 10 to 20 years. So just put it out there.
Robbie. Chris.
Yeah, look, I just want to follow up on what Noel was saying and reinforce the fact this organisation is not a public funding organisation. That's not our job. That's not our business. And I would be very concerned if we start getting a thaw of submissions coming back to council seeking funding for whatever it may be. That's not our job. And if you look at the Local Government Act, it's quite clearly not in our wheelhouse. So I just want to thank Noel for raising that.
Right, keen to wind this up, but Ben.
Yeah, just very briefly, Karen, in terms of spatial planning, which is obviously something else we're doing, how's that going to dovetail in with the economic development stuff?
This is obviously something that we have been discussing, particularly with the nexus of the two committees, the growth and resilience and how that feeds into Stratton Pole, particularly with respect to the spatial strategy. But obviously Tarek and Blair and others are providing information that informs the economic aspects of the spatial strategy as it develops.
Thank you. Righto, councillors, we do have the motion before us. And I have a mover in councillor Downard. Do I have a seconder in councillor Cookson? All those in favour? Opposed? So carried. And what I would say is, obviously, we have the new committee set up that Keith's chairing, but keep thinking this through, because there's other organisations you're going to walk out of this room and think, oh, you know, I didn't vocalise that or anything like that. Send it through to Tarek emails, but please CC everybody in, so then it'll stimulate conversation and that sort of thing, but amongst councillors. So yeah, don't keep it all to yourself. If we can keep everybody in this space as it develops, we get far better results out of that. So thank you, Tarek. Thank you, Blair. Thank you, Karen. I believe that brings us to the end of our agenda, so I'll hand back to Chris for a closing karakia. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chair, councillors. Unahia mai te uru tapanui, kia wātia, kia māma, te nākau, te tinana, te hininaro. E te ara takatu, koira rā e rongo, e whakairia aki ke ronga, kia tina, homiei, huiei, tai hiei.
Thank you, councillors. So the meeting closed at 12:07.